You shouldn't have helped him. You should have kept me a secret. She screamed across the courthouse lobby, mascara bleeding, hair disheveled, clutching a crumpled tissue like it held the last shred of her dignity. And just like that, everyone turned. My soon-to-be ex-wife, the woman who once insisted on white roses at our wedding because red was too dramatic, had just detonated her own reputation in public. And I just stood there, watching her unravel, beside the one person she never expected would side with me, her best friend. Let me take you back to where this all started. It was a slow, smirking march. And it began long before mascara tears and courthouse confessions. We'd been married for 12 years. Built a life from scratch, brick by brick, dollar by dollar. 2 kids, Jamie, who's got my stubborn streak, and Sophie, the only person I know who can get away with talking back to me. We worked hard for what we had. The house, the cars, the backyard swing set Rachel insisted on even though the kids barely used it. We were fine. Not exciting, but steady. No explosive fights, no passionate mayups. Just routine. And I didn't mind. I thought it was the kind of calm that came with time. Then things started to feel off. Not big things. Little ones. She stopped waiting up for me. She'd always left a plate in the microwave, even if she went to bed early. That stopped. She used to kiss me goodbye at the door, fingers brushing my cheek. Now it was a quick nod from the hallway. I chalked it up to stress. You okay? I asked one night, while she scrolled her phone, curled up on the far end of the couch. HM? Yeah, fine. She didn't even look up. Just feels like you've been a little distant. She blinked slowly, as if the question had to pass through 5 filters before reaching her brain. Don't be dramatic. It's just life. Everyone gets tired. Tired? Sure. She got real tired when she started working late on Fridays. Funny how she never brought home any work. Then came the weirdness with Jenny, Rachel's oldest friend. The kind of friend who'd been in our wedding, helped Rachel pick her dress, babysat the kids when we got food poisoning in Cabo. I ran into Jenny outside the grocery store one afternoon. It was casual until she said something that yanked the rug right out from under me. I thought Rachel was homesick yesterday? I blinked. She told me she went out with you. Brunch at that cafe you two like. Jenny froze mid-step, a grocery bag crinkling in her arms. No. I haven't seen her in weeks. We stared at each other for a beat too long. She frowned. You might want to. I mean, maybe check in with her. Something feels off lately. She's been. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. That night, I lay awake listening to Rachel's soft snore beside me. I just didn't know how far it had gone. Not yet, but I'd find out. The next day, I watched her cook dinner like nothing was wrong. Hair tied up, playlist humming, laughing at some podcast. She even wore that old apron I got her for our 5th anniversary, said it was ugly then, wore it now like it was a uniform. I stared at her, really stared. Was this guilt? Performance? Or had she convinced herself the lie was the truth? That night after the kids were in bed, I said, Hey, do you remember what you were doing Thursday? She looked up from her phone, blinked slowly. Why? Just curious. I was talking to Jenny. She mentioned you were homesick. A long pause. Then, oh right. I wasn't feeling great. Stayed in most of the day. Not a flicker of hesitation. She lied like she breathed smooth and practiced. That was when I called Jenny. I need to know the truth, I said. Is she seeing someone? The silence on the other end was heavy. Not exactly, Jenny finally said. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but there's this guy from my office. They met once at a holiday party. Just small talk, I thought. But lately, she paused. He's been cocky, dropping hints. And Rachel's been showing up near the building. I thought she was meeting me, but now. I'm not sure. What's his name? I'm not ready to say. Not unless you're serious. Jenny, I said calmly, I'm not looking to confront her. I'm building a case. I'm protecting my kids. That cracked something in her. Maybe she'd seen Rachel's new behavior up close and was tired of being the unintentional accomplice. Maybe she liked me more than Rachel thought. She exhaled hard. His name is Nathan. Nathan Burke. I didn't know the name, but I learned fast. Over the next few days, I played it cool. I kissed Rachel goodnight. I packed the kids' lunches. I smiled during bedtime stories. But I was documenting everything. She said she had a book club meeting. I took the kids to the park and made a call. Jenny confirmed Nathan's car had pulled up outside her office around the same time. They weren't reading books. I checked our shared credit card later that night. 2 wine bar charges. 1 for dinner. 1 Uber. No babysitter payment, no groceries. All on book club night. Still, I said nothing. Then Ginny reached out again. I need to tell you something, she said. I think it's been going on longer than you think. And he's married. His wife works in the same department. I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I didn't let it surface. What's her name? Lauren. Lauren Burke. And I think she deserves to know. That's when it all clicked. I didn't need to face Rachel yet. I needed to team up with someone who felt just as hurt, just as let down. And who better than Nathan's wife? You know that moment in movies where the character looks in the mirror and decides they've had enough? That wasn't me. My moment came standing in line at a coffee shop, holding a juice box my daughter handed me 5 minutes before, texting Lauren Burke. Hi. You don't know me, but I believe your husband and my wife are involved. I'm not here to destroy your life. Just to talk. I stared at the screen before hitting send. 3 dots. Then nothing. Then dots again. 5 minutes later. Meet me tomorrow. 11 a.m. That place off Glenwood. Don't bring her. I didn't. Lauren walked in wearing business casual and fury like perfume. No tears, no dramatic gasps. Just quiet, controlled anger. I respected it. She sat down, slid her phone across the table. I already had suspicions, she said, voice calm. But I needed confirmation. This is from last Thursday. My friend took it outside our office. There they were, Rachel and Nathan, close by the parking garage. Not kissing, but something real was happening. Her hand lingered on his chest. He leaned toward her voice. They were nearly face to face. I nodded. I figured as much. Lauren's eyes didn't flinch. So, what now? I don't want to blow up her life. Not yet, I said. I want to expose them the right way. Control the story. And I want custody of my kids. I don't want my daughter thinking this is how you treat people you love. Lauren's jaw tightened. Good. Because I want his boss to know. He's up for a promotion. And he used our shared account to take your wife out last weekend. My eyebrows lifted. He's bold. He's arrogant, she corrected. And I want to take that down a notch. We agreed on a plan, thoughtful and measured. Nothing impulsive. I'd schedule a business meeting to get Rachel out of the house. Lauren would do the same with Nathan. Meanwhile, a friend helped set up a subtle home monitor in the living room. We figured they wouldn't pass up a quiet afternoon alone. All we needed was time. The bait was too easy. I told Rachel, I'm meeting a potential client Friday afternoon. Might run long. I'll take the kids to my parents in the morning so you can rest. She barely hid her excitement. Oh, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, real helpful. Friday came. I dropped the kids off. Lauren texted, he's en route. Leaving in 5. I left the house for my meeting, and the trap was set. By 3:45 p.m., Rachel and Nathan were sitting casually in my living room like nothing was unusual. Their comfort in that space was the most telling part. No signs of guilt. No second thoughts. Just ease. Comfort. Like this was their home. I watched the live feed from my office. Calm. Cold. I wasn't watching love. I was watching a game. A lie with limbs. They spent about an hour together. There were moments of clear affection. She still wore the necklace I'd given her last Christmas, like a leftover from a life she no longer respected. It meant nothing now. Saturday morning, I made pancakes like it was just another weekend. Blueberry for Sophie, banana slices for Jamie. Rachel wandered into the kitchen late, hair damp from a long shower, humming like nothing unusual had happened just the day before. She smiled and took a piece of bacon. Smells good, she said. Yeah, I said, flipping a pancake. Had a productive day yesterday. Oh, how'd the meeting go? I smiled. Better than expected. She didn't catch the tone. She never does when she's winning. I let the weekend pass normally. Took the kids to the zoo. Watched a movie with Rachel Saturday night. She fell asleep 10 minutes in, her head on my shoulder. I stared at her, wondering how she still looked like the woman I married when everything about her had become so unfamiliar. Monday morning, the storm broke. I waited until the kids were at school and Rachel was sipping her coffee at the dining table. I need to show you something, I said, pulling out my laptop. Her eyes shifted. What's up? I played the clip. Rachel and Nathan on the couch, talking and laughing like they had no worries at all. She watched in silence, the expression draining from her face. When it ended, she finally said, This isn't what it looks like. I shut the laptop. Rachel, he was in our home. You didn't just hide the truth, you invited it in. There's no misinterpreting that. Her hands trembled as she reached for her mug. It wasn't serious. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I wasn't even going to see him that day. I held up my hand. Stop. Don't disrespect both of us with bad improv. She blinked, mouth open, trying to find footing. Are you leaving me? She asked finally, voice cracking. I leaned back in the chair. That depends on how cooperative you want to be. Cooperative? She repeated. I nodded. You're going to agree to a divorce. No alimony. I keep the house. I get primary custody. You get weekends, supervised at first. You break it clean, and I won't show this footage to your parents, your friends, or Lauren. Her face twisted at the name. You've talked to Lauren, she said, voice suddenly thin. Rachel, I said, cold and calm. I've been playing checkers. You brought chess. I adapted. She stood abruptly, knocking over her chair. You can't do this. You can't just take everything. That's not how this works. I tilted my head. You sure? She shouted. You don't understand. I was lonely. You're always working, always busy, and he made me feel seen. Right? I said. You gave him what marriage was supposed to feel like. She stormed out after the confrontation. Spent the night at her sister's, apparently. I didn't call. Didn't text. I wanted her to stew in it. Let that panic set in real good. The next day, I called my attorney, Kevin, a guy I went to college. I told him everything. The footage. The affair. The house. The kids. And the best part? We signed a postnup 3 years ago, I said, sipping my coffee while Kevin chuckled on the other end. Your spouse broke the agreement, and you've got a signed postnup with a loyalty clause? This is like showing up to a poker game with Uno cards. The clause was straightforward. If certain boundaries were broken, she'd forfeit claims to alimony or shared assets. The house, purchased before the marriage, was in my name. I just left her on the utility accounts for convenience. I want full custody, I told him. He was silent a moment, then asked, do the kids know? Not yet, I said. But I've got statements from her friend and footage. He exhaled. You're going to win. Just stay sharp. Oh, I intended to. Jenny stopped by that evening. She brought takeout and a look of someone who'd bet on the right horse. She called, she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. Said I broke her trust. Did you? I asked, popping a spring roll. Jenny gave a dry laugh. I told her the moment she started sneaking around. I said, you messed this up. I won't lie for you. And guess what she did? She messed it up. She slid me a manila envelope. These are screenshots. Messages between her and Nathan. She used my office Wi-Fi half the time. HR's going to eat this up. Why are you helping me? I asked. Jenny's face darkened for a second. Because I watched her sabotage a good man and try to spin it as empowerment. And because I like your kids. They deserve better. That hit hard. Because deep down, it wasn't just about what happened between them. It was about Sophie asking if Mom could stay home more, and Jamie watching me with wide, worried eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. Jenny finished her dumplings and stood. She's going to scream. Cry. Play the victim. Just don't flinch. I've got no intention of blinking, I said. 2 days later, the paperwork was served. Rachel showed up at the house in a whirlwind. She held the divorce papers like a statement, upset and accusing, talking about broken trust, mixed messages, and how I'd been unfair. You're weaponizing your lawyer and my friend against me, she screamed. No, I said calmly. You're just finally seeing the consequences. She laughed, bitter, broken. You think the court will give you the kids? I don't think. I know. I've got footage, witnesses, a fidelity clause, and 2 children who sleep better when you're not stomping around the house whispering on your phone at midnight. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Because for the first time in this whole twisted mess, she realized she was the one cornered. Court dates have a strange energy. Everyone dresses like their best self while dragging in their absolute worst baggage. Rachel walked in with perfect hair, somber eyes, and a black dress like she was auditioning for widowhood. Her lawyer was sharp, young, and clearly annoyed she was representing someone who brought a side piece into her husband's living room. Me? I brought facts. A great lawyer. And Jenny. Yep, Rachel's best friend, now my witness. We sat across the aisle like strangers. She gave me one look, tight lips, eyes sharp, cold fury radiating beneath that carefully curated expression. The kids weren't there, thankfully. They were staying with my sister, blissfully unaware of the battle going down in their name. The judge opened with pleasantries. Then things got serious. Rachel's lawyer tried the overworked wife, emotionally neglected angle. She was unsupported, emotionally isolated. The affair was a lapse, not a lifestyle, she said, like reading from a script in a Hallmark courtroom drama. My lawyer stood and calmly dropped the footage. Exhibit A, a video of Nathan and Rachel on the couch. Exhibit B, a timeline revealing the inconsistencies. Exhibit C, messages Jenny had shared, full of playful exchanges, careful planning, and zero hesitation. Then came the kicker, Jenny on the stand. I warned her, she said, steady and composed. I told her if she kept doing this, I wouldn't lie for her. She allowed someone from outside our relationship to become too involved in our family space. It disrupted the stability our kids relied on. Rachel looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. When it was her turn to speak, she went full soap opera. I was lost. I didn't feel seen. He worked all the time, and I just needed to feel alive again. The judge raised a brow. So you brought another man into your home? Around your children? She stammered, not around them. Never directly. I was careful. The judge's expression didn't change. Yet they live in that space. That's not careful. That's careless. Boom. That was the moment I knew. I could feel the courtroom shift. We stepped outside during a recess, and Rachel finally broke. You shouldn't have done this to me, she snapped. You had help. Jenny, of all people. She should have kept me a secret. She tried, I said. You just gave her too many reasons not to. You think you're the hero? She spat. No. I think I'm the parent who didn't bring strangers into my kid's home. She glared at me, eyes shining not with sadness, but with anger. Not because I wronged her, but because I finally stopped playing along. The courtroom was packed tighter than usual. Custody hearings don't draw crowds, but word had gotten around. Between my business standing in the community and Rachel's little suburban soap opera, we'd become the quiet storm people were whispering about. Rachel walked in wearing all black like she was attending her own funeral. Hair flat ironed to within an inch of its life, no jewelry, just a legal pad clutched like a security blanket. Her lawyer looked tense, like a man who knew his client's best argument was, but I was sad. Me? I sat with Kevin, my attorney and longtime friend, calm as ever. I wasn't cocky, I was prepared. And most importantly, I wasn't alone. Jenny sat in the row behind me, arms crossed, eyes fixed like a sniper. My assistant, Sarah, was beside her. Rachel gave them both a passing glare that could have burned holes in the walls. When the judge entered, the room stiffened. She flipped through the file in front of her, our statements, custody filings, and exhibits. Then, without looking up, she said, "This court has reviewed extensive documentation, including submitted video evidence, communications, financial records, and personal witness accounts." Rachel's fingers twitched. She hadn't seen the latest file update. That was intentional. The judge continued, "Mrs. Hartman, you claim emotional neglect and sought partial custody with alternating weeks. However, this court has to consider the children's stability, consistency, and exposure to potential harm. Bringing an extramarital partner into the family home while the father was away was a grievous lapse in judgment." Rachel's mouth opened just slightly. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently. The judge didn't slow down. "Mr. Hartman, you've presented strong evidence of a stable home, financial readiness, and consistent involvement in your children's lives both before and after the events in question. There's no indication of inappropriate behavior or undue influence on your part." Rachel straightened in her chair, trying to inject dignity into her posture. The judge glanced down once more and delivered the blow. "Therefore, primary custody is awarded to Mr. Hartman. Mrs. Hartman is granted supervised visitation every other weekend, with a review in 6 months pending behavioral and psychological evaluations." Boom. The air left Rachel like a popped balloon. Her lawyer blinked rapidly, like he'd just seen his career flash before his eyes. "Me?" I just nodded, hands folded in my lap. Kevin whispered, "Textbook victory. Clean. You're golden." Rachel stood slowly. Her face was pale, jaw trembling like she was clenching back an entire monologue. She turned, pointed a shaky finger at Jenny. "You should have kept me a secret," she shouted through clenched teeth. "You turned on me." Jenny tilted her head, calm. "No, you turned on yourself." That was the last sentence spoken in that courtroom before the bailiff called for clearance. Out in the hallway, Rachel cornered me near the elevators. Her eyes were glassy, red rims forming. "You think you're proud of this? You turned everyone against me." I let her words hang in the air like smoke, then calmly replied, "I didn't turn anyone. You just finally showed them who you are." She scoffed, glancing back at the courtroom door. "You had help. You always need help. Not as much as your boyfriend, apparently." She flinched hard. Here's what Rachel didn't find out until last week. Nathan couldn't hold it together anymore. The night before the hearing, my assistant Sarah came to me with something. She had access to our shared office voicemail, one of those digital inboxes I hadn't checked in months. And there, tucked between spam messages and vendor calls, was a message timestamped just after Rachel served him the news that his wife was divorcing him. It was Nathan, panicked, sweaty through the phone. "Hey, I don't know who checks this, but Mr. Hartman, I guess? I didn't know she was recording. Rachel told me it would stay private. I never intended for things to escalate the way they did. Lauren kicked me out. I'm losing my job. She sent the videos to my boss. I just want this to stop, man. I'm sorry. We never even needed to play it in court. Just having it transcribed, notarized, and quietly referenced was enough to confirm our narrative." Sarah printed it. Kevin attached it to the final filing. Just like that, Rachel's last defense, "It wasn't serious," was vaporized. That evening, after I'd picked up the kids and settled them at my sister's house, I sat in my quiet home. Our home. Except now, it really was mine. I made myself a drink, clicked open my laptop, and reread the court summary. Not out of smugness. Out of confirmation. The months of calm, of strategic patience, had paid off. I never once yelled. Never once took the bait. I kept my hands clean while she flung mud and assumed I'd sit there and take it. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Rachel. "You've changed everything. This isn't the life I was supposed to have." I stared at it, thought for a moment, then typed, "No, I just stopped protecting your version of it." And I turned the phone off. About 2 months after the court ruling, the house felt different. Not because furniture had moved or walls were repainted, but because the tension, the fog that lingered for years, had finally lifted. It was gone. I hadn't just won custody. I'd reclaimed a life I didn't even know I was missing. The kids adjusted surprisingly fast. Kids are intuitive like that. They knew when the vibe was off. Now, with their rooms stable, their routines predictable, and no more hushed arguments behind half-closed doors, they settled in like flowers finding sunlight. Rachel's visitation was exactly what the court ordered, supervised, bi-weekly, and strictly regulated. No surprises. No last-minute appearances. And she hated it. Every minute. She called once, sobbing. "They don't talk to me like they used to. Jamie won't even look at me." I told the truth, I said quietly. "Kids see what they see. And you showed them who you were." She hung up without saying goodbye. That same week, Sarah, my business assistant, stopped by to drop off some paperwork. It had become routine. She knew my schedule better than anyone and had been helping with the legal side of things even before court began. But something felt different that day. She lingered a little longer at the door. Not awkward, just hesitant. "You okay?" I asked, setting the paperwork aside. She gave a small smile. "Yeah, just hadn't said it yet, but I'm proud of how you handled everything. That makes one of us." I felt like I was walking a tightrope half the time. "Maybe, but you never lost your balance. You didn't take the bait." That's rare. There was a silence then. One of those pauses that's louder than most conversations. "I'm not good at restarting," I admitted. 12 years with someone. Even bad routines start feeling safe. Sarah looked at me carefully. "You don't have to restart all at once. Sometimes you just take one new step. Then another." She left shortly after, but something shifted that day. A warmth I hadn't felt in a long time returned to the house. The kind that isn't loud or obvious, but shows up in small ways. Laughter over coffee. Quiet conversations about anything but the past. A plate left out for someone because you want them to stay. 3 weeks later, Sarah came by again, this time on a Saturday. No paperwork, just takeout and a movie. Sophie called her Miss Sarah without being prompted. Jamie showed her his science project. And I watched it all unfold with a quiet kind of awe. Not the thunderclap kind of love. Something better. Steady. Earned. Real. Rachel tried one last time. She came to the door, eyes rimmed in fake tears. "I just want to talk." I didn't even open the screen door. "There's nothing left to say, Rachel. You've replaced me with my shadow," she sneered, nodding towards Sarah's car in the driveway. 6 months after the dust settled, the house felt alive again. Not with noise, not with chaos, just warmth. The kind that hums through a place that's finally safe. Sarah had moved in, not officially at first, but then toothbrushes stayed, then slippers, then a drawer turned into her drawer. The kids loved her. Not in a trying to replace mom way. And as she listens, she shows up, She gets us kind of way. Rachel's visitation stayed supervised. She filed a few appeals, saying the kids were being turned against her, claiming I was influencing them unfairly. But each time she tried to shift the blame, the facts spoke for themselves. The video, the messages, even her own friend's testimony, it was her choices that changed everything. Then came the moment I didn't expect. Sophie, my youngest, climbed onto the porch swing beside me one Saturday night while Sarah was inside helping Jamie with a project. "Dad," she said, swinging her legs, "are you and Miss Sarah gonna get married?" I smiled. "Maybe someday." She looked at me for a long time. "Do you love her more than Mom?" That one hit. I thought carefully before I answered. "I love her differently," I said. "Sarah never made me feel small. She never lied to me. She shows up, even when it's hard." Sophie nodded like she understood more than any 8-year-old should. "Did you love Mom?" "I did," I said honestly. "And I probably always will. But loving someone doesn't mean you let them hurt you." She leaned her head against my arm. "I like it better now. You laugh more." And that right there? That was everything. Rachel, for what it's worth, eventually faded into the background. Nathan moved out of state. Last I heard, he sells insurance. Jenny still visits, and every time she does, she brings dessert and a smirk. "You ever gonna thank me properly?" she joked once. "I gave you the good wine last time. That's premium level gratitude." She laughed. "You're lucky you're charming. Love is real. But it's not a contract. It's not convenience. It's not something you hold over someone's head and break when they don't bend to your moods. It's what Sarah does packing extra snacks for the kids without being asked. Staying up late to fix a science fair volcano because Jamie needed it to erupt more dramatically. Sitting on the couch beside me on quiet nights and not needing to fill the silence. Rachel taught me what love shouldn't feel like. Sarah showed me what it could.